Okay, let's dive right into this, because today we're unpacking something that affects almost every single one of us every single day. We're looking at the silent toll of the chair. We've built this modern world totally designed around comfort, but the latest data reveals a massive hidden cost to our health. In this explainer, we're going to break down the surprising reality of our daily sitting habits, what it actually does to our bodies and brains, and exactly how we can fight back.
So, let me ask you a question, and it's honestly one a lot of us base our daily routines around. Does a 30-minute, super sweaty workout in the morning completely cancel out a 10-hour day sitting at a desk? Well, it's a huge, widespread myth. We tend to think of exercise as this magic eraser that just wipes the slate clean. But as we'll see from the latest cardiovascular and metabolic research, checking the box on your daily workout absolutely does not grant you immunity from the damage of a highly sedentary day.
To really understand why, we first need to get a grip on what sedentary behavior actually is. It's not just the absence of exercise. It's defined as any waking behavior characterized by very low energy expenditure while sitting, reclining, or lying down. The research is super clear here. Sedentary behavior is a distinct, independent health risk factor. Your body reacts totally differently to sitting all day than it does to simply not running. It's a unique physiological state all on its own.
And that brings us to this incredibly stark number, 10.6 hours. A massive Harvard study recently identified this exact threshold. If you spend about 10.6 hours or more of your day highly sedentary, your risk for heart failure and cardiovascular death sharply spikes. And the truly alarming part, that elevated risk stayed exactly the same even for the people in the study who hit all their recommended daily exercise levels. Crazy, right?
And this brilliantly illustrates the reality of our daily math. A 1-hour daily workout is fantastic for your heart and your mind, but it still only represents about 4% of your total day. It simply cannot fully offset 10 whole hours of continuous sitting. The sheer volume of inactive time literally begins to work against your biology, completely independent of how hard you pushed yourself on the treadmill that morning.
Section 1. Your body in a chair. The systemic hazard.
Let's think about what is quietly happening inside your body when you spend those long hours in a chair. We all know sitting too much kind of leads to weight gain, but the true systemic hazard goes so much deeper than just those obvious risks. It's a biological chain reaction. First, when you sit uninterrupted, your major leg and core muscles basically just go to sleep. They stop using up blood sugar. Second, your overall calorie and fat burning just absolutely plummets. Third, because all that sugar is just hanging out in your blood, your body demands more insulin, which builds up insulin resistance over time. And finally, this whole shebang triggers systemic inflammation in your blood vessels. This is the direct biological pathway, straight from your office chair to type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease.
And the chronic risks go way beyond just your heart. Let's rapid-fire some of these unexpected impacts. Studies actually link excessive sitting to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. We see increased risks for several cancers, including colon, breast, and prostate cancer. In fact, recent NHANES data found prolonged sitting is associated with certain forms of urinary incontinence. And of course, the structural damage. BMC public health findings draw a direct line from endless screen-based sitting to severe chronic neck pain. It literally affects almost every system in your body.
But here's a fascinating nuance. Not all postures are created equal. Harvard Health Publishing points out that reclining and lying down while awake may be especially harmful for cardiovascular health. Now, we might think kicking back on the sofa is giving our bodies a much-needed break, but slouching or reclining is actually worse for your heart and metabolism than sitting upright. It lowers your energy expenditure even further.
This sedentary toll becomes even more critical for those who are already vulnerable. For cancer survivors, an inactive lifestyle acts as an extreme threat multiplier. Research shows that cancer survivors who sit for more than 8 hours a day face a drastically higher risk of overall mortality. When the body is already dealing with serious conditions or recovering from a major event, prolonged sitting just aggressively worsens the odds.
Section 2. The brain twist. Active versus passive sitting.
Now, what's really interesting about this is it's not just our physical bodies taking the hit. This is where the research gets incredibly nuanced, because what you are actually doing with your mind while you're seated dramatically changes your health outcome. There's a really strong contrast here. On one side, we have mentally active sitting, things like reading, complex problem solving, or diving into spreadsheet work. On the flip side, we have mentally passive sitting, binge watching TV, or just that endless mindless smartphone scrolling. To your legs, hey, you're sitting in both scenarios. But to your health, these are two entirely different activities.
The data really spells it out for us.
When you look at mentally passive behaviors, like watching TV, the data shows a much higher risk of depression, particularly in younger people, and an actually increased risk of dementia later in life. It aggressively accelerates cognitive aging. Mentally active sitting, however, has a neutral or even lower impact on these risks. Engaging your brain actually helps protect your cognitive health, even if your body is completely still.
Having said that, the sheer volume of time still matters immensely for brain health. This is a sobering statistic backed by research from USC and Harvard. Adults over 60 who spend 10 or more hours a day in sedentary behaviors face a significantly higher risk of developing dementia. The total lack of blood flow and movement directly contributes to neurodegeneration and brain shrinkage over the long term.
Section 3. Breaking the sedentary cycle. Microhabits for health.
Let's move to and see how this builds into something actionable and positive, right? Because we aren't just going to look at the problem. To fix this modern dilemma, we first need to recognize that this is absolutely not simply a personal moral failure. We are literally fighting our environment. Modern office designs, our digital workflows, and as the Washington Post recently reported, even rising global temperatures are making outdoor activity less appealing and pushing us deeper into our chairs. We are dealing with a massive environmental design challenge, which means we need deliberate strategy to overcome it.
And that strategy relies heavily on the power of substitution. It's amazing how impactful just 30 minutes can be. Replacing just a half hour of sitting with light activity actually lowers the risk of a second heart attack in survivors. Swapping it for moderate exercise drastically offsets general mortality risks. Incredibly, even swapping 30 minutes of sitting for sleep improves your physical recovery and mental well-being. Basically, any movement away from the chair is a massive win.
Which brings us to a highly achievable microhabit outlined by Medical News Today, the 30-minute protocol. Step 1. Sit for no more than 30 minutes at a time. Step 2. Take a 5-minute walking break. Step 3. Watch your body naturally regulate your blood sugar and blood pressure. So the crucial point is this. The total amount of time you sit in a day matters, for sure, but interrupting that time matters just as much.
And the science really shows us what actually works to build these interruptions into our daily lives. Proven interventions include sit-stand desks, which actively alter workplace behavior. Digital nudges, like smartwatch push notifications, are highly effective. We've all felt that little buzz on the wrist. Researchers are even testing environmental cues, like automated lighting changes, to trigger a standing break. And finally, deliberately adding just 15 to 30 extra minutes of daily activity really helps buffer the risks of our modern seated routines.
The science is incredibly clear here. Our chairs are silently taking a huge toll, but we absolutely have the tools to break the cycle. It doesn't take running a marathon every day. It just takes consistent, small interruptions. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought, directly challenging your current environment right now. How will you interrupt your next hour of sitting? Stand up, stretch, take a walk, and I'll see you in the next explainer.